Welcome to Behind the Doors, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of residential real estate investing. I'm your host, Dan Noma Jr., here with my co-host, Marvin Cruz.
We're here to help you unlock the best strategies and practice for investors. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your portfolio.
We've spent decades navigating the ever-changing world of real estate, and now we're sharing everything we've learned to help you succeed.
From off-market deals to cash flow management and everything in between, we'll break it down and bring you actionable insights that can make a real difference in your investments.
So get ready to open the door to new opportunities and take your real estate investing to the next level. Let's dive in.
Oh, Dan. I think we might call this episode what the heck,
man,
what just happened?
I know
we just had a big shakeup in the real estate game,
big time,
a big game changer. So
yeah.
I know you know, but a lot of people may not know. Did a merger just happen?
I think it was an acquisition. Yeah, it's a big deal, man.
Rocket just bought Redfin.
Rocket, a mortgage company, bought a real estate portal and brokerage.
You have to break why this is so big.
Yeah.
You got to break this down.
It's crazy. People. I was, so a couple weeks ago, I was in Boulder with a guy named Mike Del Prete, who's he's a writer and educator. He's kind of the godfather of all things real estate prop tech and all things in our industry.
Right.
Speaks at all the conferences. He researches real estate businesses and technologies more than anybody in the country. Very much an expert. It was funny. We were sitting in the class, and there was a mastermind group, and it was all like corporate. It was all CEOs from different tech companies,
right.
And he was it was Ask Mike was like the question, and you don't get an opportunity to ask that guy like a lot of questions very often. So it was a good hour of us hitting him with questions, and somebody had asked him a question of like, what do you think Redfin's or like Rocket's next move is going to be? And he said, I think that like Rocket, the context of the question was, what do you think the future of Redfin is going to be? And his response was, I think the only potential buyer of Rocket or of Redfin is Rocket. And I was like, wow. And he, went over why. And then I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then 2 weeks later, it happened. And he did not know. I swear he didn't know. And he just kind of saw the writing on the wall, So, like, it's funny. Like, Rocket's the biggest mortgage originator in the country, right? So the gigantic mortgage originations. And, like, the money that they generate, I think year over year, $252 million, something like that. I mean, just massive amount of cash that they've generated. It was the Super Bowl when they launched Rocket, right? Because it was always Rocket Mortgage, then it was Rocket Homes, and then it was, whatever. The Super Bowl is they had the commercial where they said, this is a search portal, and no one had ever seen it. And we were all like, wait a minute. So Rocket now is getting into the business of lead generation because, now they're competing with realtor.com and Zillow.
Yep.
Like those two behemoths, those are tough to compete with. But then you look at the cash position of the company, and Rocket has like 5 times the amount of cash of a Zillow, right? So they're just a behemoth. And then you've got like another one coming down that's called homes.com.
Yep.
Right. So now really with that announcement, what is that, February or January, I don't know, whatever day that the Super Bowl was, now Rocket became in the portal business, and why not, if you're going to be in the portal business, start to look for potential ways to compete in that space, because they were starting from essentially zero, no one was going to Rocket before to search for homes, Nobody was doing that. And then, they make the announcement, and you could, and like their platform was cool. Like you could get on there and you could see properties. I mean, it was as good as like a Zillow or Realtor or anything. It was good. And then they were, everybody just thought they were going to take the leads, marry them up with a mortgage first, and then hook them up with a real estate agent. Well, obviously they want the mortgage, right? But I think even like the CEO of Zillow talks about like, their vision of the company long term is to be the super app where somebody comes in there and soup to nuts, they just work with Zillow services across everything. So they get Zillow mortgage, they use Zillow title, they use the Zillow agent to close the deal. And so everything was all Zillow. The super app is what they call this.
Yeah.
And Rocket came from a totally different perspective. Like Zillow came in from the perspective of, we're going to get the consumer eyeballs first, and then we're going to hitch on mortgage, and then we're going to hitch on title, and we're going to hitch on all these in the agents and all this stuff. Rocket owns the mortgage business. They own that. They're kicking butt there.
Yeah.
And they were like, now that we already own this, we're going to come at it from this other angle and now play the portal game because we think that's easier to get into. And then they bought the third largest search engine in the country, which is huge, right? So Redfin is a cool product. Have you ever been on Redfin's website?
Yep.
It's cool. Like everybody that uses Redfin says that like, man, I just love the interface. It works so good. It's great.
So do you think this is the real estate revolution we've been waiting for, or do you think this is a monopoly in the making?
No, I think that this is the beginning of many mergers. We've seen it this year quite a bit through the industry of different stuff where you've seen like, Compass has made some significant acquisitions, and they're even this week had another conversation that Compass is potentially looking at buying Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway real estate services business away from them as well. Compass is the biggest transactor of real estate in the country, right? By transactional volume, they're the big boy now, so it's not any of these other brokerages. It's Compass. They're the biggest player in the game. So they've started the fad, and it seems now that everybody else is looking at this from an operational perspective and going, well, maybe we should roll up under their services, their back office, all the things that they've got, and it's cheaper for us to do business this way. So I think it's just the beginning. I think you're really just seeing the beginning of this, and you're going to see a lot more mergers and acquisitions over the next couple of years for sure.
Wow. Well, let's break this down for the folks that are listening to what just happened. So Rocket just bought Redfin, and here's the breakdown, right? It sounds like the deal was all stock.
Yeah.
After the dust settles, Rocket shareholders will own 95% of the combined company. They're expected to close here in March of 2020 or mid 2025, obviously pending approval.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Rocket just made a massive land grab in the real estate portal space.
Big time.
Wow. So Dan, what's the play here? What's the strategy behind this power move that you've been able to research?
I think there's a lot for this, right? But I think the big thing was Redfin was in trouble. From a financial perspective, Redfin's not made money yet. So they've, like companies like Open Door and OfferPad, they've not figured out a way to be profitable, like that. And now they know that buyers of these stocks, they want revenue. They want to see that these companies are making money and profitable. You can't just lose money anymore and it be okay. You've got to make money. So I think from that perspective, Rocket was in a position where they had to do something, So earlier in the year, we saw that their CEO stepped away. I think that was the first taste because he probably knew this was coming and just didn't want to go down with that ship.
Redfin CEO.
Redfin CEO. He stepped down, and then immediately Rocket comes in and acquires him. And so it probably was they weren't going to have two CEOs, and they were probably that he didn't want to be there anymore. So yeah, I think that but Redfin has something that Rocket didn't, which was they had the consumer eyeballs, the app downloads, the users were already using the product. By the time that Rocket would have built that, it would have cost them billions of dollars in marketing to do that. So Redfin was probably a steal. It was probably a real steal for Rocket to buy it, and just then create kind of a unified vision, right? Where both companies, right, are thinking about ways that they can streamline home buying services. Redfin has been playing with this for years. They used to have Redfin agents. So Redfin agents used to be employed by Redfin, W-2 employees, not 1099.
Oh,
And so they got a percent, they would be paid partially on success, but they were getting a salary.
gotcha.
And so the idea was that you could transact cheaper with Redfin, you know, and that didn't work out so good, right? So then they went off of that and they created more 1099 positions. But they have like reinvented their model a bunch of times to try to figure out what's going to work, you know, in the market. While they did that, they also created the third largest search engine for real estate in the country, and that has weight, huge weight, you know. And so I think you know, the fact that they were both chasing the same vision of like this unified super app, coming at it from different perspectives, just like makes it happen for the ultimate winner faster. You know, like if I'm realtor.com or I'm Zillow right now, I'm a little worried of this one. You know, like people were saying that about homes.com. They were saying because the owner of homes.com is extremely wealthy. He vowed that he was going to spend billions to compete in that space. And, you know, he's doing a great job, but they're not even close. Like they're very far away from getting the consumers to do that.
Wow.
Everybody goes to Zillow. You know, everybody just lands to Zillow.
Yeah.
So playing 2 or 3 is okay. Playing 4 is where it starts to like the delta just drops off big time in that. And so that's where I think it's becoming super, super interesting. But I think the other piece is like the consumer experience now is going to be cool.
Yep.
Like, you know,
Less friction, all that fun automation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than what we do, right?
Yeah.
Like when we have a customer that buys a home or buys a piece of real estate for investment for us, we also bundle mortgage and title services with that.
Yep.
It's exactly what these guys are doing. They're just doing it at massive scale, you know, and then the searchability of their products make it easy for people to use, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I do like that customer experience because it's like a one-stop shop to your point, right? You got home search, mortgage, brokerage, all in one platform.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then not to mention, now you combine in data with a little bit of AI, and that's going to ultimately create this personalized home buying experience that will be totally personalized to you, which is really interesting.
It's not just like the lead, right? It's more than that. It's like, what are people looking at? What are they looking for? Like all of that data, like Zillow has a whole ancillary business that they sell data to like companies like Home Depot about like what people are interested in. Builders, like they build their builder services division, huge. You know, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, they were talking about this big dollar synergies as well. So it sounds like the prediction is 200 million plus in savings and revenue growth.
Yeah.
So in translation, Rocket is going to become the Amazon of real estate, or at least desires to be or wants to be the Amazon of real estate.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm looking at a chart. Operating cash flow of 2024 is a pretty good sign of like why this happened. So operating cash flow of 2024 for Redfin is they lost 30 million. Operating cash flow of Rocket is that they were net $860 million. You know, and people are like, what's that compared to Zillow? Zillow's 430.
Yeah.
CoStar's 390. You know, homes.com 390. So that's a massive play.
That's actually a good segue because when you think about who's winning, we see this is obvious.
Yeah.
But who's losing could be Zillow, could be Realtor, but also some pretty large brokerages.
Yeah.
Could be losing here as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think you got a game of, you know, the data that these guys are playing with is so massive and so powerful now with the integrations of AI and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. I just think you're going to see a lot of change of the industry over the next couple of years because it's all about the consumer experience, and whoever has the easiest one at the best rate is going to win, you know? And so the race is on, you know, just figure out how
definitely war is brewing. Because what is the most precious thing right now is data and consumers' attention.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, those are the two things. So, Dan, let me ask you: do consumers win when this kind of thing happens? What's your opinion?
I think so. I think that, like the increased competition is good. It is definitely good. Where I think it's going to keep, Zillow Mortgage honest and keep them from being able to charge additional points just because the customer is like, well, I'm looking with a Zillow agent. I want a Zillow Mortgage. I'm going to use their title company to close, like all of that. Where now Rocket comes in there, they're going to have to compete with them for those rates. And so I think that competition is good for the consumer, so that loan origination.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but I see what you're saying. So I'm a consumer. I'm expecting I possibly can get lesser fees now, but with less competition, I can also be impacted. Like it kills options, which could drive cost up.
Potentially,
Yeah.
potentially. I just think we're only at the beginning. There's so many out there right now. I mean, just those 4 alone. So you've got Realtor, you've got Zillow, you got, homes.com, and now you've got Rocket all playing the same game.
Yeah.
And they're all coming at it from different angles. They're all just playing a different angle as part of it. And it'll be interesting to see what all rolls out of it, but.
Well, let me have some fun with you. So I got a couple industry reactions and to get your opinion here. So Zillow, their reaction is, we're still the top dog.
Yeah.
All right. What's your take on that reaction?
I think that Zillow, it from the surface today is as close as anybody's ever been to having all services lined up in one simple super app. And that's been their vision from day one is to be the super product for everybody else. But beware, I mean, they've never been great at mortgage. They've been really public about the fact that mortgage has been a struggle for them. They haven't dominated the mortgage space. They're not in the top 10 mortgage originators. Now they're dealing with the number 1 mortgage originator.
Yeah.
And it's not even close, right? The second one's not even close. So it's, that's scary. When your next attach, your highest revenue attach product is your biggest competitor is coming into that. I think that's scary.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing. The key is really for Rocket is now they've got to make that product experience and the user experience has got to be dialed in. And so, the beauty is because a lot of people were saying well, Rocket doesn't have agents. They don't have a brokerage service, Zillow doesn't really do that either. They just hire agents, they work with agents and hire them. Realtor, right? They don't have agents, but they work with partner agents. They sell leads to those agents, and those agents have to comply by the rules to play with them. Whereas Rocket was coming into this from a different perspective. We were going to dangle the carrot to maybe get more agents to use Rocket, but then you buy Redfin, which has thousands of agents nationwide already. The plumbing's already there, right? Man. They plugged into the plumbing that they needed right away.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. I mean,
it's huge.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
It's a big one. So is this the new era of home buying, or is this a monopoly in disguise?
No, I think this is the new era of home buying. I think that if you, why wouldn't you, if rates were competitive and you could go on something, you could search, you could see, you could get a mortgage, you could close, all in one place, and you didn't have to go to different places to do it. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, actually, I could relate because that's the part. That's it's part of the pain with home buying anyway. Is how many people you have to deal with. How many times you have to sign your name and send this person a piece of paper. So the company that does figure that out, to your point, creates this amazing one-stop shop experience. Game changer.
Right.
Game changer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to make the experience super, super easy, and agents have done a good job of being the glue between mortgage and title and mortgage and the portal and mortgage and everything else. And I think the agent will still continue to do that. But if you're a Redfin agent and you're now going to be a Rocket agent and, you have the ability to be inside of Rocket system to see where the status of the mortgage is, or, help with title closing services and all of that inside of that one closed system. I think that offers you an advantage for sure.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So we got a couple perspectives from inside. So Redfin CEO Glenn Keltman says that this is about protecting Redfin's mission and keeping their edge.
Yeah.
So what a power play there that they got.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then Rocket CEO Varun Krishnoff calls it seamless, AI-powered future for home buyers.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have some analysts out there that sees this as a massive strategic shift.
Yeah.
Mortgage giants are taking over home search.
Yeah.
This is so fun.
It's funny, like the home search, like these guys are chasing such a $1 billion industry, and it's gigantic, right? When I first started in real estate, there wasn't even there was nothing. There was no Zillow, right? So there was nothing.
Yeah.
And we had an MLS, and the only way that you could see homes is that you would have to go meet your agent.
Yeah.
Your agent would set you up with what we call portals, and we thought these were like sweet, is because I get to control what you see. So you would say to me, okay, I want to see every 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Phoenix, and these are the streets that I want to stay within. And then I would set up a search in there, and then every time a property met that criteria, it would send it to you. Yeah. And then that's how you would see homes.
Yeah.
That was your only option. There was no other way. Like, unless you had MLS access yourself, you didn't have the ability to search for homes. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the biggest shift in real estate history. When when the real estate agent lost search, that was the biggest shift ever. Like, nothing will ever be bigger than that. That's when things got out of control. And the agent lost a ton of value, I think, at that point, right? Because when we were the gatekeeper of the next house that you could buy, like, that kept me as the center of the transaction.
You were so important,
right?
Yeah.
But then when you put search in the hands of everybody, it changed the game, and it completely changed the game. And then it took a while for the data to get good, and it took a long time. I mean, Zillow was at it for a long time before they created an environment that was like seamless. Like, people would say to me, like, they would send me properties off of Zillow when it first came out. And I used to say to them that their Zillow was, 30 days late on their data, because they were early. Like, they were, they would get their data, but it was 30 days behind the data that we had in the MLS. But then it got like shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And all of a sudden, it's gone. Yeah. Like, and they instantly have the same data set that we have inside of the MLS. And like, that's when the game was on, and that's when the game became different, for sure. Because now consumers go out, they search for homes on their own. They go, hey, Marvin, you're an agent. I want to see this home, and this home that I found on Zillow. Go show me these properties. Or they're on Zillow, Redfin, or whatever. They click and go, I want to speak to an agent about this property. Bam, that's a lead, right? That now these portal sites can take, and now they've captured the customer. That's where the game changed. Gotcha. Nothing will ever be bigger than that, in my opinion.
So, obviously, let's relate this back to our listeners.
Yeah.
So I'm an investor listening. What does this mean to me? What should I be thinking about?
From an investor perspective, like, you still can't get on any of these portal sites and see properties in an investment form. Like, they don't have the data. They do have the data. I don't know why they're not sharing it. And I think someday you will see it.
Right.
But, like, what is this home worth in investment form?
Yeah. I like that.
Or like, how do I surface the best investments to the top of a Zillow search? You can't do that right now. Like, you can't get on there and filter by a cap rate or cash on cash return. You can't do that yet. That's not the consumer they're chasing, though, right? The consumer they're chasing is the regular home buyer, and that's what they've been chasing. So, but I think as a real estate investor looking at this, like, I don't know that it changes a lot for what we do. I think it may change some of your agent relationships that you've got floating around out there, because I do think that the agent game is changing, as a result of this. And you're either generating your own leads as an agent, or you're buying leads, partnering for leads from one of these portal sites. And that has a big impact on the way your business runs, like a huge impact on their business. So, but I don't know. From a real estate investor's perspective, I mean, I kind of expect no change really, as a result of like this merger doesn't really mean a whole lot to them. Yeah. I think that this is really dedicated to the home buying experience. And, but I think there could be things down the line that come, like, CoStar owns homes.com. CoStar is the biggest commercial search engine in the world by far. They own the second competitor, which is LoopNet. They own the data. They have a huge amount of data. No one has even come close to touching it. If they wanted to, I think that they would be closer to trying to figure out a way to allow investors to search for properties on their portal sites. I think that that's possible.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So no, thanks for sharing that insight, because there is a little impact to agents. Obviously, it could be huge.
Yeah.
Little to marginal for investors. Consumers, they could expect some streamlined opportunities here, or options, if you will. But I would warn, probably just pay attention to potential high prices. We don't know. But competitors, you said something interesting.
Yeah.
Zillow's probably sweating right now a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I think that, I think that they're going to try to level up their mortgage game real quick.
Yep.
Because that's obviously a big revenue generator. I mean, what did we say? They're almost double the amount of revenue.
Yep.
Yeah, double the amount of revenue. $430 million operating cash flow. $430 million for Zillow to $860 million last year for Rocket. That's a lot of additional gas.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a ton.
That is a ton. That is a ton.
That is a ton. So, and then the amount of money that they're spending in advertising is crazy too. Like this year, in 24, CoStar and Rocket almost spent $1 billion in marketing and advertising, where Zillow spent about $250 million marketing and advertising.
Hey.
So a quarter of that. But they also didn't have to, because they've already got the consumer, right?
They didn't. Yeah, exactly. They already know who they
so,
are. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is cool because it's like, what approach did you take to get there? Zillow's approach was totally different than, homes.com and what Rocket's doing. They just came at it from a different place. Everybody is approaching the same problem from a different place. And it'll be really cool to see how it all plays out.
Oh, it's going to be fun. So, stay ahead of the curve. Listen to podcasts. Get your tool. Get your what should I call it? Get your friends. Get your education. Be a part of real estate and platforms. Sign up for Easy Street, because I will tell you, and Dan, you probably can attest to this. Big shakeups like this.
Yep.
This is how homes are sold and bought.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah, I think the one thing, we can close with this on this topic, right, is really just that what's unknown of all of this, right? Like these companies are making tons of money in all different ways.
Yep.
They're losing a bunch of money in ways they test stuff too. Is that there's this assumption that consumers want a one-stop shop for everything. But no one's built it yet, so nobody even knows if that's what you really want. Like, what if it all gets done and nobody wants that, or the experience isn't as good? I don't know, So it's like we've just all assumed that that's what the consumer wants, and that's what all these guys have been building. But how do we know? Like, at the end of the day, if like it's yet no one's ever done it, so how do you know that that's the best experience for the consumer actually? So I don't know. There's still a lot to be had here.
That's awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Doors. We hope you found today's insights valuable for your real estate investing journey.
Remember, real estate success doesn't happen overnight, but with the right tools and strategies, you can build long-term wealth and create passive income.
If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with others who are passionate about real estate investing.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for more tips and exclusive content.
Until next time, keep unlocking new opportunities, and we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Doors.